Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insert More Coins episode. I want to thank number 19. Tonight, I have an incredible guest, the man that nearly broke me on the very first grimdark book I've ever read in my life, The Light of Kazaban. And then last month, I read another book that tore me up inside, The Last Gasp of Midnight. And then I have another tome of his that I've eventually got to get to read. The fantastic, slightly sick author right now, Thomas Howard Riley. How are you doing today, sir?
Rowdy, I'm glad to be here. I am slightly sick, mostly better, but I do sound like an absolute troll right now. So I do apologize. This is actually me. This is not me doing a fake voice. This is my real voice, unfortunately,
So
until I
we
heal.
no AI generated voices here.
No.
Legit. All right. What's up, boys? How you doing? You doing
Hey,
good
how you doing, man?
tonight? Um, so I guess we were talking about you being sick a little bit, but before we get started, as I said in the intro, which we were on this little thing I was going to say, The Light of Kazaban, as I said, it was my first grimdark book I ever read, and that first chapter where it ain't gonna spoil too much, but where they bull the dude's head with the gold,
It's
or
it is a bit of a doozy. Yeah,
whew,
that is a short book, so I had to
yeah,
make sure that I packed as much punch into every chapter as possible
mm,
for character and for story and for world building. And so I needed that first chapter to really, and also I wanted to, I love to let people know what they're in for
yeah,
as early as possible in a story. Um, because it's hard to tell in a lot of cases what one reader will or will not like. Um, and so I like to let people know early in the blurb, even. So, sometimes I like to put content in there that'll let people know a little bit what they're in for. But yeah, Light of Casaban definitely starts off with a bit of a dark tone there.
yeah.
Oh, and before I forget, my God, I wanted to point out your awesome light display, the name
Oh,
display behind you. That is
yeah.
fan. I love that. That
Oh,
is awesome.
thank you, thank you.
That is really cool. For a second, I thought it was a graphic when I first came on
Yeah,
with you, and I'm like, but now I'm realizing it's a actual fixture. I'm like, that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. I want it after I bought it and put it up. I actually was like, man, I should have got one that would change colors, but I didn't think about it at the time. Or since I live in East Tennessee, so I'm a huge Tennessee fan. So I was like, orange goes with
It
white.
works. It works.
That's the thing.
It's
Yeah.
an awesome color, and it really pops. So
Mm,
yeah, I love it.
thank you, thank you.
Um, but yeah, back to what you were saying in
Yeah.
Light of Casaban. Ironically, that's the story that has my most cinnamon roll character that I've ever written. Because most of my characters tend to be on the morally gray side of things.
Mhm.
Not not really totally grim dark villainy, but like
Yeah.
questionable decision makers, to say the least. Um, but this Saya, who's the main character from Light of Casaban, is one of the sweetest people who I've unfortunately thrust into this terrible situation that she has to try to make do in, and hopefully come out both alive and with her sense of self intact.
Yeah. Yeah. It, like I said, that first chapter after I'd read it, I'll never forget. I was like, I don't, because everyone talks about, you know, grimdark, either you're kind of, you either love it or you hate it type deal. Cause it can get pretty dang dark. Could be as dark as horror, sometimes even worse. And, I'd never read anything before that of grimdark. And I read that first chapter and I'm like, if this is the way this continues, this is not for me. And it didn't. But now, I mean, I don't want to say I'm
Right.
seasoned, but I've definitely read some pretty bad stuff. And now it's like, okay, I can handle it. But
Yeah.
at the time, holy cow,
Well, yeah,
it
and
got me.
part of what I was trying to do as a storyteller from a storytelling perspective was um, set the tone and show the danger early in the story.
Yeah.
Because if you do that effectively, then you don't need to keep showing it. You don't need to keep doing, showcasing terrible things happening over and over again, because the dark cloud of that first exposure, that first situation, will be
Mm.
hanging over the characters for the entire rest of the story.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going for as well, in that section, was so that I could spend some other chapters leaning into the lighter side of things, and how these the protagonist and the children that she's caring for make the best of their, in cases, find pieces of happiness and joy in this terrible situation they're in.
Mm.
But even in those moments, you have that memory of the first chapter hanging over your head, so that any minute now something could go
Yeah.
horrifically wrong, and things do go wrong. But yeah, that was one of the things I was focused on. It was very deliberate on my part, and I did hem and haw about it, because that there's a fine line between effective and gratuitous when it comes to to anything, violence, sex scenes, battle scenes, whatever. There's a fine line there, and it was originally much more descriptive and much longer, going over
Mm.
the execution scene. And I ended up, paring it down very. I was trying to be, like with a scalpel, trying to very expertly narrow things down to just enough to get the reaction that I got from you,
Yeah.
from readers, but not so much that people are just like, that they're just
Yeah.
like, ugh. And so that's what I try to go for a lot in those, in scenes that I do like, that horrific scenes. I don't like to. I like to linger in tense scenes. I don't like to
Mm.
linger in horrific scenes. I like horrific scenes to, just boom, punch you once in the face, and
Yeah.
then, while you're stunned, and then move on. I don't like to linger in those scenes, because I feel like if you do them right, you don't have to overstay your welcome, when it comes to that kind of thing. So
Yeah. I I did on how that one ended. Are you planning on writing another part
yes,
of it? Okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
The when it comes to the books that I have just released, and that I'm in the process of releasing, I was in kind of a bind, because originally my debut, which is my chonky book,
Cool. That
We
thing's
Break
a beast.
Immortals. It is a beast. Um, Originally, my thinking, and I've talked about this before, that my thought process my whole life was that you have to put every story and every character that you think of in one big series, and that big
Mhm.
series is going to be like Malazan, like
Yeah.
Wheel of Time, and any any type of story like that. You have to have everything in one big series, and that's your series, and that's what you
Yeah.
do, and then you're done. And it was only after I published this that I started to kind of like free myself mentally, when I saw other authors and other experienced other ways of doing things, that I thought, okay, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I can take these characters to and explore them more than the space would allow, if they were just stuffed into, a sequel. And Saya's story was originally just a couple of chapters in that planned sequel for We Break Immortals, which is still coming. The sequel is still coming. It's one of the next two books I'm going to put out. But Saya's story was kind of just jam packed in there, and it was just like a very condensed, not as dramatic, not as interesting version of her, like a miniature version of her story, before she meets the main characters. Before I was going to introduce her to my existing main characters, um, and but I decided, in the end, that I didn't want to suffer that constraint of, because I felt that her character was far too interesting, to me, and I wanted to explore her character much more than that would have allowed, and so I decided to put her in her own book. And originally, I was going to have her in this book, and then have her join the characters, but I along the way I came up with some other ideas within Light of Casaban that sparked a whole new idea. So she's going to have her own sequel to Light of
Okay.
Casaban, uh, most likely in 2027. I think is when her situation will come out, and I've decided to just delay the interaction with her character until probably book three, the sequel of We Break Immortals, before
Okay.
she gets introduced, so that I have time and space and room to explore her character uh, in her world the way that she deserves to be showcased. And I think it's going to be pretty satisfying as well, the things I
Yeah.
have planned. Because Light of Casaban ends kind of on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's I wouldn't say it's like it's not like someone's like hanging above a vat of acid and then I just fade to black and like
Yeah.
see you next season. It's not that kind of. It's kind of a positive almost cliff, like it's a partially positive but terrifying uh, moment. But it really ends on kind of a positive tone for her, where she really learns to embrace herself, and is continuing on her journey in her own way by her own choices. Um, but it is kind of an open-ended ending in that regard, and so I wanted to have a much more satisfactory conclusion to some of the threads of her story
Mm.
uh, before, and get her on a firm footing with that new ending before she ever interacts with any other characters.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fantastic. Like I said, I loved it, especially after getting through the first chapter and figuring out like what it's like, and then reading the whole thing. It was fantastic. But then I just read The Last Gasp of Midnight, and holy cow, that book is amazing. For as much as you put into, like, what is it, 30, 32 pages, somewhere in
Yeah,
there?
it's technically a novelette.
A
Uh,
novelette. Okay.
I set out to try to write a short story, but as is my
Yeah.
want and my destiny in life, is I went way too long,
Yeah.
but not long enough to be a full novella. So I guess it's called a novelette. But yeah, it's about 12,000 words, so it's a
Yeah.
pretty, but it's still a short story because it's one scene that just
Yeah.
carries on. It's like a series of moments of a fight between two characters,
Yeah.
the last two surviving members of on a battlefield, one from each side, who both have reasons that they need to fight on and can't walk away. But yeah, but there is a bit of a tragedy to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I think that's where, because I think even in my review, I was like, be careful what you pray to the gods for,
true. Yeah,
because
that was, yep, very true.
that's, my gosh, that one
I,
got
I,
me.
I love to put like a Greek mythological degree of tragedy into. I like to
Yeah.
telegraph that stuff as well. There's a lot of
Yeah.
hints to that, and in some of the other books that I have written and am writing, that when you go back and read, the degree of foreboding that you'll get
Yeah.
is pretty intense.
Yeah. What's up, Mark? Doing pretty good tonight. How are
Hey,
you?
Mark.
You're probably about ready to get about 12 inches plus of snow, I bet. So I think he lives in somewhere up in Pennsylvania or something like
Feel
that.
free to
So
send some of it my way.
yeah,
I'm in the desert, so
cool it down.
yeah.
But yeah,
The setting of Light of Casaban was inspired by the fact that I live in a place where it gets to
okay.
be
Yeah.
120 degrees in July. So
Yeah. Okay. So on The Last Gasp of Midnight, how did you come up with like that? Just off the top of your head, or was that like something you'd seen in a way? But
um, yeah, I've been on a quest for a really long time to write a short story,
okay.
something that is based on how thick this book is.
Yeah.
It should be obvious how impossible of a task I've set for myself by wanting to do that. And as a matter of fact, the monsters we feed here was my first attempt at trying to do a short story based on a single piece of lore from my world that doesn't even appear in any other book. I just had thought of an idea from it, but I kept coming up with more and more ideas of how to make the story more interesting, more interconnected, and more and adding to the depth of the story and the commentary and the characters. And it ended up being a full-fledged book. I mean, it ended up being 110,000 words, which is for a short story, that's like 106,000 too many. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was a happy a happy accident, like a successful failure, because my attempt at a short story was uh, did not work out, but it did come up with a really awesome book that I love very much. And so this is my kind of my second attempt to do that, and the concept of just the two characters fighting each other, but then talk like it originally came from just my thinking of a battle or a fight as a conversation, and
Yeah.
I got that thought in my head. Um, and I thought, well, how can I make a story about that? How can I put, make that uh, conceptualization? How can I make a real story based on that concept? And this is kind of what I came up with, was characters who are bitter enemies at the beginning. They don't know each other, but they're bitter enemies because they're fighting
Yeah.
on two sides of a bitter war. And I wanted it to be a conversation. I wanted to be fighting and then interspersed with them talking to each other, and in a way sort of getting to know each other and kind of gaining respect for one another.
Yeah.
And you can, and I tried to put that in the dialogue as things go along, like as each break in their fighting, uh, where they're both getting horribly wounded, they're both getting exhausted, so they have to take literally take a 5 minute break from fighting,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the fighting is so intense and taking such a toll on their bodies, that they literally have to stop and sit there at times. And neither of them are in a position to take advantage because they're both, physically exhausted and wounded. But as it progresses, they start off, sniping at each other and
Yeah.
mocking each other, and then it starts to get into some more of like a ribbing, like you would do
Yeah.
with friends. And then by the end, it's almost like they're like, oh, that was a good move he did, Paul, that kind of thing. And then of course there's my Greek tragedy of a twist at the end,
Yeah.
which
We got Mike in here. What's going on?
Mr. Mallman.
Hope you're doing good this evening. Yeah, like the thing that got me about it too, after you read the book, but the first thing, it's like I think it's the first couple of pages, they're basically like, we could literally just walk past each other and it would
Yeah,
end. Neither one of us has to die, but they're both like, no, one of us has to die. Like it has to
yeah,
end.
no,
It's like,
and yeah, and I wanted to give each of them a reason,
yeah,
a deep reason why they each wanted to continue the fight. Um, and so, because yeah, I mean, if it was just two guys that were just, not really wanting to be involved in the fighting, they could have just walked away. Like one could have gone one way, one could have gone the other, and uh, you know, no
yeah,
harm, no foul at that point. But I wanted them both to have a reason why they specifically needed to take each other out, along the way.
yeah. No, yes, Mike, he lost his voice because you were late and he was not happy about it. So, yes.
Yeah, it's all Mike's fault, 100%. Mike did this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I sound like a bit of a troll. I'm trying to get over being sick. I've been sick for like 3 weeks. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah. All right. So, since I've not read We Break Immortals, can you tell me a little bit about it?
Sure. Yeah, We Break Immortals is it's a story about a drug addicted hunter of wizards who tracks down wizards. His old pal from childhood, who is a sword fighting uh, kind of savant, but that nobody has ever heard of and that can't catch a break. And then a magic wielding thief who is hell bent on revenge, and all of them kind of collide in the hunt for a superhuman serial killer that is trying to uh, kind of hack the source of magic to make himself a god, and they all kind of collide in this situation, and it ends up they end up in this epic adventure.
Hmm.
So it's
It's
it's part manhunt, part quest, part just epic adventure. So, but it is a rated R story as well. So it does have uh, it's not high fantasy. I wouldn't call it grimdark. I would call it rated R epic fantasy.
okay. If there's one thing I can nearly put money on, I'm gonna guess Mike Molman has not read it
Correct. Oh yeah. No.
because
There
it's
there
over
will be
500 pages,
yeah,
correct?
there will be hell will freeze over and pigs will be flying in it before that happens because it's a pretty
It's a big book.
and probably not my next two releases either because my next two releases
Okay.
are going to be just shy. One is just shy of that, and one is even longer than it.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay,
it's
so is it gonna like when are you're putting a sequel out to We Break Immortals, right?
correct. Yeah, the next book that
Okay.
I have that's going to be coming out is going to be another first start of a story that is kind of a similar situation to Light of Casaban. It's going to be called
Okay.
The Heroes We Never Were, and it's going to be
Okay.
another two characters that I had originally put in the sequel when I was first drafting it, 10 years ago, that I
Mm.
first put in the sequel to that, that I decided to also pull out and break out into their own story. And then the couple of chapters I had for them, same situation, only even more dramatic. I built up their story to the point where it's a long book. It's an epic fantasy at this point. So that one is the very next book that comes out, and that's the last thing that I broke out of the sequel. So the next thing after that is going to be the actual sequel of
Okay.
We Break Immortals, which is in its final revision right now. So I'm taking a break from revising that to finish the proofread uh, on The Heroes We Never Were, which I'm
Mm.
almost done. I think I'm on chapter like 40 out of 50, and then I'll be right back into the sequel for this because I plan on having
Nice.
both of these come out this year.
Heck yeah. You got a busy year.
Yeah.
Like I said, one word to you, Thomas. Novellas.
Well, Light of Casaban is
Yeah.
almost a novella. I think I
Yeah.
overshot it being a novella by a couple, by a little bit, but
Yeah,
it's
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 not
it's
yeah,
there.
it's not long. It's very good.
I
Very
do.
good.
I now for our the esteemed Mr. Ballman, just to reassure him, I do have plans in the works for about 4 or 5 shorter books. I'm not sure if they'll be able to be true novellas, but they'll be pretty darn close. Because I have quite a few ideas of things that I've been uh, outlining, kind of like storyboarding in my head, how I want them to be. And I think so. I think I'll have a buffet of things for Mr. Molman that'll come out. I don't know if any of them will come out this year. It just depends on how things shake out. I might have some ready, I might not. But definitely by next year, all 5 of these will be out as well. So
Nice. Now, We Break Immortals, is that your first book you ever wrote?
it is my first one. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the first book with intent to publish.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wrote other little, short things throughout my early years, and then We Break Immortals was I started writing it like the very first. I probably wrote the very first scenes of it when back in the 20 aughts. So it was quite a long time ago. And I originally wanted to just publish it as like a vanity thing, just to publish an ebook on Amazon. I had no plans to. Uh, it was under a different title. I had no plans on promoting it or trying to get it. It was just kind of like a cool thing, I was like, "Oh, mom, look, my books on Amazon, haha." And it wasn't until I think 2020 when my first child was born that I kind of got a bug up my ass about going back to it and actually polishing it and completing it to my satisfaction to actually publish it and to be an indie published author. And so that's because prior to that there had been several versions of it because I'd just been kind of working on it on and off, changing things, rewriting things for a long time, for probably close to 10 years. And And then throughout all those times, I never quite felt like it was a, like done. It didn't feel real to me. It felt like there was something missing, some undefinable quality to it. And it was around that time when I got that spark to actually go back to it, that ideas just started flowing to me, and I kind of discovered what it was that I thought was missing, like the answer to what I thought was
Mm.
missing. And so that final time, uh, where I redrafted it, and it rewrote scenes, created scenes from scratch, created characters from scratch, added tons of new chapters and whatnot. That became what it is now, and that's the final version of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, so it's like kind of funny because I have memories of because there were almost like six different versions of it. Because originally I tried to write it in a high fantasy kind of Lord of the Ringsy kind of way,
Yeah.
and then I changed my mind, completely altered the ending, cut out the original place where it was going to go. I switched. At one point, I tried to make it almost like a Lovecraftian cosmic horror version, uh,
Mm.
but it ended up not really, fulfilling what I needed for it. I have a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor that I'm saving for eventual use in this series or others. But yeah, um, it's kind of, but it is funny because sometimes I remember scenes and I go looking in the book for scenes, and then I realize, oh yeah, I cut that scene out like years ago. Yeah, that's not part of the book
Yeah.
anymore. There were whole storylines with other point of view characters that I removed, and put in new point of view characters in their place and things like
Yeah.
that. So it was kind of a long journey to get that book done, but now that it's where it's at, now I have to you know make everything else match in that quality.
Boy says, you had me at buffet.
Yes. So, and and they'll all be slightly different kind of stories as well, which should be fun because none of them will be exactly alike, to one another. They'll all still be set in the same world, but in different locations, different times, and things like that. Some may have familiar characters and not, but yeah, it really will be like a buffet because it's going to be like a bunch of different stories tonally, and regarding their subject matter. So
Yeah. And then Mike wants to know audiobooks ever?
yes, so that's another one of my goals for this year. I've been putting it off for the last year or so, uh, because of raising my kids. My kids were
Mhm.
taking up too much of my mental time because they're both 5 and under right now. And at the time, they were like 4 and 2, and it was just too much to handle
Yeah.
all of that stuff at the same time. Uh, but now I'm in a place where they are being kind to dear old dad, and giving me a little bit more free time. But that is one of my plans, is to have an audiobook for We Break Immortals, and hopefully then start going on that's the big one, really, because that's going to be the hardest one to do, both time
Yeah.
wise and financing wise, because of how big it is. The other ones should be a lot easier to do because they're much shorter books.
Okay. So, what inspired you to start writing books?
I've always written stories. I've always been interested in telling stories. Even when I used to play with Legos and whatnot, I used to create storylines for all the characters and have epic battles and like heroes and villains and whatnot. But I remember writing, like, probably my first fantasy story that I wrote was on my mom's Apple II GS computer.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. Uh, no, it was a beast. It had I think 4 megabytes of hard drive space.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Just enough to play the Oregon Trail.
it was yeah. It had like one MP3's worth of total hard drive on that computer. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I remember I saved the story every time I would work on it. I would save it on one of those 3x5 floppy disks,
Yep.
and that story ended up the file ended up getting corrupted. Um,
Oh man.
and I had accidentally saved the corrupted copy onto the as my backup as well because
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time. So yeah, ended up losing that story. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, I when I was like a kid, I must have been like 10
yeah.
years old or somewhere in that range. But it was about a guy named the Mighty Toth, and everybody called him the Mighty Tooth, and he would get really mad because he was kind of a grouchy old man. And he would get kind of mad
Yeah.
that they kept mispronouncing his name. But it was an
Yeah.
adventure about people trying to recruit him to come with them on a kind of like a D&D party, trying to
Okay.
recruit an old grizzled veteran to come with them on a journey to defeat somebody. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that
Man,
was a long time ago. I kind of just off and on would just write stories for myself, just write stories in pen. Um, when I was in school, most of the stuff I'd bring to school with me is just stuff to work on writing or reading my own books. I just bring Lord of the Rings or Robin Hobb or whatever books I
yeah.
had. Um, Dragonlance books, Forgotten Realms books, and that would be my reading material. And I would write and make little charts of world building and stuff, of
Yeah.
things I thought up that I thought were cool, and that would be most of what I did at school, most of the time. And eventually, I ended up in like creative writing class, and I almost flunked creative writing class because I kept not writing short stories like they wanted me to. I kept writing every time they would assign a short story assignment. I would write like a 40-page prologue to a 10
Oh
volume
wow.
space opera. Like, I just could
Yeah.
even as a teen, I couldn't control it. Um, but I would just go off in wild tangents like uh, every time. So it's something innately in me. It's not something that developed over time. Like I've just always been this way, apparently.
Yeah.
But
You know,
I would just kind of pick it up and put it down, depending on what I was doing. Like for a while, I was in like a garage band, so I didn't do a whole lot of writing during that time, because I was mostly focused. We were focused on jamming and doing local shows and stuff.
yeah.
Um, and then I would go back to it, when that would end or when I'd have breaks from that. And I just kept kind of going back to it over and over and over again, and eventually ended up here. And now that's pretty much all I do in my free time is just write.
Yeah. You would think that, which I wasn't in creative writing in school, which I didn't care anything about it, but you'd think that they would have encouraged that. I mean, I realize the purpose of probably
Yeah.
the thing was to
Well,
write something short, but
the teacher did love me,
yeah,
and technically I flunked the class, but I was given an opportunity to do an extra credit assignment so that I could
yeah,
pass the class or whatever. But I think she was just constrained by what the curriculum was and the way they wanted
yeah,
things done. They wanted things done a certain kind of way, and I know that seems weird from a creative writing aspect, but it's
yeah,
it, anytime you're in school, there has to be some kind of a constraint around that or whatever. So I understood that, but at the same time, I just couldn't stop doing it the way I wanted to do it. So
yeah. You're almost, if you think about it, you're almost too advanced for the class. If because if
yeah,
they're like, just write something short, and you're like, I don't write short stuff.
yeah,
It's I need big,
yeah,
lots of words is what you're good at. And that would be something interesting right there. Would be like,
yeah,
I can't write nothing small. It's got to have a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
what author, or do you have multiple authors that kind of influenced your writing style?
Well, early on, it was a lot of obviously, I read Lord of the Rings when I was a kid. I have my mom's 1970s copies of
Oh,
Lord of the Rings
that's
right here. Can
cool.
I find it? Can I
Yeah,
get it? Can I get it? There it is.
yeah.
But probably my chief influence was Dragonlance
Okay.
and Forgotten Realms, like the books where Drizzt, the Dark Elf, comes from.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Those were kind of the books that were like my bread and butter when I was young, um, because I love, and that's kind of where my concept of having an expansive world and having lots of different stories in it, yeah, and having even stories that may not touch each other specifically, but still will have the same events to play off of or the same history, whether they take place. Because this is my world map for my world here, and a
Okay.
lot of the stories happen in just like one city on
Yeah.
that. Even We Break Immortals, where they do a lot, they basically start there, go there, and then they're done. They don't even,
Yeah.
they don't even explore like 90% of the world. So, but I always had that as a concept of having an expansive world and having all my books kind of be in that world. And then whether and how they touch each other would just depend on
Yeah.
my whims or whatnot. But so I'd say that's probably my biggest influence. I was also influenced a lot uh, by science fiction space operas, like the Foundation by Isaac Asimov,
Mhm.
the Dune books. I read those a ton. I was kind of an early reader. I was reading, Asimov when I was like 9. I was just
Yeah.
obsessed with uh, uh, reading those kind of books. Anything that wasn't my schoolwork, I would just just like zone in on that. Um,
Yeah.
so I read those books very, very early, and so a lot of my idea, I don't like to. It's weird because I don't like to write science fiction at all, even though there are some kind of elements in my writing that kind of have a science fiction ish.
Yeah.
They're science fiction adjacent, because we can talk about my magic system later, where there are some, concepts like that. But I just don't like writing about spaceships and lasers and
Mhm.
electricity and shit like that. But I love reading it, and it's the weirdest thing. Like I'm
Yeah. That's
obsessed with, like I love the Expanse. I loved the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. I was a huge fan of that as well. But I have a whole host of science fiction stuff.
mm,
Uh, I I'm looking forward to reading through the rest of Red Rising. I'm looking forward to reading through the rest of Chris Rocchio's books, because those I love that kind of stuff. I just don't like to write it. It's the weirdest thing.
how far are you into Red Rising?
The first book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm about to start Lightbringer
Mhm,
next week or the week after. I'm running a little bit. It took me a little too long to finish.
mhm.
Well, I say to it's a 1150-page book. It didn't take me too long. It just the month is short.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
I discovered discovered those series, and that right when I was running into the buzzsaw of my kids reaching the age where they both needed my attention at all times and could run
Yeah.
around and demand it. Because
Yeah.
there's a certain sweet spot when you have kids
Yeah.
where they're small enough that you can contain them, like
Yeah.
where you can have child gates, you can have this, you can have that. They're too small to get into a whole lot of trouble on the high
Yeah.
shelves, you know. And then there's a certain point where that just all goes out the window, and it's just like
Yep.
nonstop. And so it just, you accept it. But I ran into that right when I was trying to get into that series. So I have all one, two, three, four. I have six of the yeah. I have the first six books already. If I like a series, I just buy all the books.
Mhm.
So I have all 10 of the Malazan books, even though I've only read the first two. Um,
Yeah.
I just bought Chris Rocchio's entire series because of Boyce's review of one of the books. I was just like, okay, this
Yeah.
sounds exactly up my alley. I'm just gonna go with it, and
Yeah.
so I just got all the books, even though I won't be able to start going forward on that for a little while. But yeah, I love those. Anything that's epic, I love.
Let's say
Um,
like I said, I'm a Lightbringer on Red Rising, and I am starting Kingdoms of Death by Christopher Rocchio in
is that
March.
the broken binding cover?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so pretty.
Oh, they're incredible. I got
They're amazing.
the Malazan books as well. What's out so far? I
Mhm.
got what is it, the first
Yeah,
6. Lord, them things are big.
yeah,
That is a massive series. I haven't read one of them yet.
yeah.
So
it's you know, I love that kind of stuff. I mean, if we're talking about my influences as like a writer,
Mm,
I would probably one of my biggest influences is probably Robin Hobb,
mhm.
um, and Joe Abercrombie. I'm kind of a cross between like my writing style and kind of the stuff that I write is kind of a merging between those two, except with kind of like Scott Lynchian dialogue. Uh,
Yeah,
when I do the dialogue. Um, and then
that's
my
a
magic
good.
systems, I like. I'm very adjacent to Brandon Sanderson when it comes to magic systems.
Mhm.
So I'm a fan of his books. I really enjoyed Mistborn, even though the tone of Mistborn is just completely nothing like what I write.
Yeah, yeah.
I love complex
Yeah,
rules based magic systems, not because of the lore necessarily, but I love the all the ways you can play with that, all the ways I love being constraining characters' abilities.
yeah,
And so I love having a rules based magic system because it opens up all these ways that characters can try to undo other characters' magic or counterbalance other characters' magic and this back and forth kind of stuff. I just love that. And I came up with my complex magic system before I ever read any Sanderson, so it wasn't like a direct influence on me. It was more like a
mm,
validation of what I was doing. Like when I read
yeah,
this, where I was like, "Oh, I am allowed to do this. I can do
yeah,
this." Okay, because I love that idea. The big thing about my all of my books is that they share that magic system where magic exists and is it's kind of like the X-Men. Everybody is born with certain things they can do, and they can either develop those talents or not uh, with practice or experience or whatever. But the big thing that I have that sets it apart is that magic leaves like a stain or a residue that can be seen using certain mediums and
mm,
that can be used to track and identify the magic users who did it. And so that's one of the big constraints that I put on the wizards, both big and small, in any of my books, is that you can be immediately found the fuck out if you're
yeah,
if you do anything. So it immediately puts that constraint upon
yeah,
anybody, even the most powerful people. And then you can find out whether or not somebody's able to do anything to stop those powerful people or not. And I even like to explore how different societies use that. Some societies use it, like We Break Immortals. One of the main characters is a magic hunter, and he's basically like a detective, like a CSI, almost like
yeah,
a murdered homicide detective, because he only exclusively hunts like the worst of the worst, serial killers that use magic. Like if Gandalf was a serial killer running around Hobbiton, using magic to choke out and murder hobbits. This is the guy you would send to pursue him. So it's almost, and they have a society where you can register your magic. Even though it's in a medieval slash Renaissancey kind of technology level, they have you know uh, devices and materials that can react to magic, so that you can find somebody's pattern and identify them. And so if you they'll have people register like come do their magic so that they can record it, and so that way they'll know your pattern, so they know if you ever do anything with your magic, they will be able to catch you instantly. As opposed to rogues who would use magic and it would take a lot longer, so they would be able to do a lot more damage before they could be identified or caught. And so our character hunts those rogues, like people who, Hannibal Lecter's with,
yeah,
the powers of Professor X or Magneto. Basically, he would go after those guys
yeah,
and use techniques to try to stop them. But then if you go to the Light of Casaban, that society is completely different. It's controlled by magic users who are self-policing other magic users. Uh, in a way, they're like a religious group, a religious organization that uses their position of power to basically oppress all other people who use magic. So in that book, the main character is the one being hunted, but not because she's a criminal. Well, I mean, she is in their society, but not because she's done anything bad, just because of who she is. So I like having all these ideas where I can go into and look at it from different perspectives and different societies. That's another reason why an expansive world is really
Yeah.
helpful, is because you can see how different cultures and different groups, look through everything with their own different frame, and even though it's the same system, it can come up with a completely different story.
I'm just thinking now of Gandalf being a murderous serial killer wizard
Yeah,
killing hobbits,
I
and
think I
then
think
someone
I think I even wrote a blog post at one point about that. I'll have to see if I can find that again and put it on my website. But
I'm
because that
just
was that
thinking,
was one of the things that inspired me to write, to come up with the idea for my magic system, and it
yeah,
being trackable. One of the impetuses of that was me originally thinking, after reading, Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, like, what if Gandalf was a bad guy, but not in like
yeah,
a I want to take over the world kind of way. What if he just wanted to, like, kill people? Like, what if he was, the BTK killer? What if he was, using magic to strangle prostitutes in dark alleys? Like, what would happen in that case? Because it's
yeah,
not like something where, oh, we know how to stop him because he's going to conquer the world, so we just have to be in the way. Like, how would you do that? And so that was one of the things that inspired that idea. Uh, was like, well, what if?
yeah. The only man that could stop him would be Harry Dresden.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Had to call him
yeah,
up.
yeah. Harry Dresden is kind of similar to Aaron in We Break a Moral, except Aaron is like the
Okay.
young buck. He's kind of like the young kid, new kid on the block, like kind of a
Yeah.
savant, working working for the first time on his own after his mentor disappeared. So he's kind of on his own for the first time, but he's basically like a young kid,
Yeah.
uh, trying to do it, but kind of very similar to Harry Dresden for sure.
So how did you come up with like your characters? Like were they like people you knew and you just put them in a book, or have you planned it?
No, they actually just they develop. Like, I come up with a
Yeah.
character. Like, I'll go with like a profession or an idea or something I need them to do, and I'll start to hang on one second. Sorry, I hope I muted
Bless
in
you.
time.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
good.
but I'll start with the idea of what I want the character to be, and I'll try to, as I'm writing them, I'll try to kind of just find who they are in my mind. So I don't make caricatures of people.
Mhm.
Really, like, sometimes I'll like picture people I know as kind of like a visual, a blueprint for a character, but the personalities never end up being uh, like a real person. Uh, uh, no tie into like a real person. They're all their own kind of thing. Um, but I'll try to think of like the core ideas of a person, like how they feel about the world, how they feel about themselves, what's their core thing that drives them as a person, what kind of uh, effects their backstory has on them. Like, do they have trauma? And sometimes the characters will have built-in, traumatic events that just kind of come up when I'm creating the character. And sometimes I'll start to feel out the character, and they'll start to, in my head, take on a certain idea of how they behave, and I'll start thinking, I wonder why they behave that way, and then I'll go back and do things. So it's always like a work in progress. Like, sometimes I don't discover the true voice of the character until partway through the book. I just like let it rip. I've gotten a lot better with it
Yeah.
now at kind of finding that center of a character. Um, but I always am still finding little pieces of a character throughout the story. Because nobody is just a caricature of a thing. Like, everyone is complicated. And so I'll always find little pieces that I can then go back and sprinkle throughout the story as I go. But yeah, they all develop that way, in this weird kind of organic way as the story is unfolding, and 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 sometimes they surprise me, like, because being a writer, I've always said, is very weird, because it's like you're the actor but also the director. So part of your mind is telling the character what they need to be doing, and the other part of your mind is performing that character saying, I don't want to do that. I feel like my
Yeah.
character would do this. So it's like almost like you're arguing with yourself sometimes on how things go. And because there are times where the plans I have for the character just get blown up completely, and I have to just go on a whole new track because the character, like when they reach a certain moment, a certain event, a certain confrontation, a certain conversation, even where something will happen that will kind of surprise me. Like they'll say something, and I'll be like, "What if they responded this way?" And then all of a sudden, that sets their whole arc on a whole new track. Or a
Yeah.
whole new side thing. So all of my characters sort of come out of that process. So that was the long-winded way of saying that no, I don't base it on any
Yeah.
real actual people.
Do you have a favorite character that you've ever wrote?
Favorite character? I don't know if I don't know if I could put it into favorite. I mean, I my fan favorite character is Corin the Magnificent from We Break Immortals, uh,
Okay.
who is just a real card. He's very funny. Not like haha he tells jokes funny, but just his way of looking at the world and reacting to serious events around him just drives a lot of humor. Um, but I absolutely love Saya from Light of Casaban.
Mhm.
Um, but it may be a surprise, but I my number one favorite might even be Kelluin from We Break Immortals, who is
Okay.
the third POV from that book. I just loved all of her chapters. I love her character, and I love her. I kind of hid clues to her backstory without explicitly saying it. A lot of
Yeah.
people miss it because a lot of people uh, might, I'll leave it in a bit of dialogue here or there, the different breadcrumbs to lead to her backstory. But she's probably one of my favorites because she's just was just a delight to write and uh, to create her complexity. So
Yeah.
I really liked her as well.
Do you have any like dream project that you hope to do one day?
Well, I have like 30 books that I want to write. Like
Okay.
I have a lot of I have a lot of ideas. I have books that I want to write enough to for my brain to be booked until like 2040. I have so
Yeah.
many concepts and ideas. It really just depends on whether I can leave any of these ideas as one shot books or whether they will end up getting uh, sequels as to how long it'll take me to write all these because I have a lot of uh, different story. Like I have a story about some like wizard catchers who are like it's kind of like a
Uh-huh.
heist style crew of people who use techniques to try to catch wizards that the law enforcement won't go after. Uh, they do it for money, like they'll do it as
Okay.
like a mercenary group. That one is a lot of fun. Uh, I've already outlined that story. I really want to go into that one. I have another one that's like a story of a character who lives in a society where there's like ecological collapse and like he uncovers there's that the elite might not be as all powerful and all knowing as they claim to be. I have that story that I really want to get into. I have the 5 novella ideas that I talked about previously. So
Yeah.
my brain is full of stories. I need the time to write to match what keeps
Yeah.
going on in my brain to get all this out because they are all in their own way wonderful ideas and wonderful
Yeah.
stories that I want to get on the page. But I also want to get out these. I keep ending up writing sequels. Like Light of Casaban was supposed to be a one-off, but now it's going to have a sequel.
Yeah.
We Break Immortals is going to have several sequels. The Heroes We Never Were is going to be the start of a series of 3 or maybe 4 books um, to tell the extent of that story. So I keep running into this problem. So I guess my next thing to defeat now that I've learned how to write shorter stories, like shorter books, is how to like write a one-off and like stick to it
Yeah.
and not immediately be
Yeah.
like, ooh, I just had another idea for something I could throw these characters into that
Yeah.
would be wonderful. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I have a ton of ideas coming up.
I'm curious how, like, you know, you got these big epic fantasy books where they're, a 10 book series, 15 book series, stuff like that. And they're all 500 plus pages, they're huge.
Yeah.
I need someone to come out with like a 10 or 15 book series, but all novellas, 150 pages or less. You
Yeah.
can put them out like that, small, short, to the point. Yes, technically you could make like really 4 or 5 books and be done with it, but that's not the point.
Right.
Short reads, and then you can continue the story. Something
Yeah.
totally different. All right. So, like, what do you need like in your workspace when you're writing? Like, do you listen to music? Do you put on headphones?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
candles? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Music is a must. I have
Uh,
my headphones with me at all times. I keep my all my music on my phones or on my iPod or on my computer. I don't do streaming
mhm.
because I've had a history of picking apartments or my current house that are uh, like Wi-Fi dead, like dead zones for
Oh,
devices, and we've had a string of really uh, unreliable home Wi-Fi
yeah.
setups. The current one is doing just fine, but I have like 10, 15 years of trauma of not being able to listen to my music when I wanted to. So I just keep all my music on. Like I have 100 gigs of like music on my phone, and I just find uh, a playlist or a part of a playlist that is the kind of tone of music I want for whatever kind of scene I'm writing, and I just hit play and just let it go. A
Okay.
lot of for even for like scary or horror type scenes, I even have like very creepy artist like music
Okay.
artists that I've
Yeah.
found that do instrumental music of that type. It's mostly instrumental.
That's what I was fixing to ask.
It's
I
mostly
couldn't
like
do with the words.
orchestral type stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do electronic, like trance, yeah, very trancey electronic music
Hmm.
that keeps me in the vibe. But I do that a lot for editing and for proofreading because it keeps my head in kind of a rhythm to keep moving. When I actually am writing scenes, it's usually more dramatic music, like orchestral stuff. I listen to a lot of position music, which is like uh, composers who write music that could be a score for a movie that doesn't exist. Like it's just like a
Okay.
lot of that type of music. Um, and then and they're really good. Like some of these are absolutely fantastic things, and they always it helps me write. Like when I get in the zone, like when I hear the crescendos of music, it can like affect how I'm writing in the moment. So I really do appreciate that. So I always have my headphones. I always have my music with me. Other than that, my biggest thing is to just remove obstacles from being able to type because I have ADHD like crazy, um, it, unmedicated in any way because I'm from the era where people are like ADHD is fake, forget it.
Yeah.
And I just have had to come up with my own coping mechanisms throughout my life. Fortunately slash unfortunately, who knows? But my biggest thing is just make it like I have workstations all over my house. Like I have,
Okay.
like right now I'm in my like my office. I have like 3 different chairs depending on what type of like how my back is feeling. Like
Really? Okay.
basically my whole thing is about eliminating the excuses that my brain
Yeah.
tries to put in the way of me doing writing.
Yeah.
um so like, oh, my back is a little too squiffy for sitting in a comfy recliner. I need a straight up chair. I have a workstation with a straight up chair and I just go with it.
Yeah.
If I'm like, oh, I just want to hang, in my living room, with my family, but be working, but kind of still present. So I built a little workstation with a little swivel thing that comes around on my spot on the couch, so I can like,
That's cool.
while the rest of the family and we're all watching TV together, I can still be
Yeah.
be present, but also go do a little writing and then be present and kind of go in and out of that.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have that, I would just be present with my family and never be able to convince myself to go to another room to get any work done. I just wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then so it, it's really a lot of stuff like that, like having my computer already plugged in, already charged, already ready, having the files already open, to cut out any because my ADHD is insidious, man. It is insidious. It will find any excuse for me to like be like to trick me into not doing the
Yeah.
work. Like so, so yeah, it's a lot of that like that I've developed over the years of ways of short circuiting uh, that kind of concept, so that I can be wherever I am, I can just jump right into it and just start going, and
Yeah.
then jump out of it and then jump back in and stuff like that. So
That's pretty smart. Ain't gonna lie. All right. So, what advice would you give to others that are wanting to start to become an author and start writing?
oh, good lord. Uh, Number one, just write it,
Yeah.
just write it, man. Just write it. Whatever idea you're having, uh, don't worry about your talent. Don't worry about don't sit there and second guess everything, because your skill and your talent comes from writing, and it comes from the practice of doing it and then reading over what you wrote. I would also say read a lot, like read authors, read a story, find chapters of a book that you like and read it. And if it moves you, and if the prose affects you, just reread that chapter over and over again, like you know, uh, until you can get an idea of what it is about that affects you. What is it about the rhythm of the words that makes the prose feel as juicy as it does? Or what is it about the word choices, or the flow of a sentence or a paragraph that gives you an emotional response? Like look at those, and then when you write things, read back and try to read it aloud, uh, but just do it. Like that's the thing, is just do it, because um, you will get better very quickly the more you actually do it. To the point where, like, I wrote We Break Immortals, the final version of We Break Immortals. I published in 2021, and within 2 years, I was reading back over some of the fight scenes or dialogue, and thinking, oh man, wish I could have written this slightly differently. I wish I could
Yeah.
have tweaked these words or added this sentence here or switched the order of these. You will improve so quickly on your own that you won't be able to, but you won't be able to see it in the moment. When you're doing something, it's only when you look back. So just do it. It's the same as it's just like honing a skill, like playing a musical instrument. Like when you start playing a musical instrument, you're gonna suck.
Yeah.
When you first start playing video games, you're gonna suck. You're not gonna be any good at all. And but you have to go through the
Hmm.
gauntlet of not being good at something in order to get, because the people who are really good at, like, really good authors, really good actors, really good plumbers, anything, they used to suck
Yeah.
hard at that job, at that craft. But they did it over and over and over again, and they studied other people who did the same thing and tried to put what they found into practice. But the only thing that will get you better is to just do it and overcome that fear of, oh, it's not going to be good. Like, We Break Immortals is like the 16th version of that story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Light of Casaban. When I wrote that, you have to you go back and edit your book, two, three, four times to make sure that the everything lands the right way. Nothing is the way that the final version of something is never what it looked like originally. It originally always looked like crap, and all people, all readers and future writers see is the finished product, and they're
Yeah.
and it's very easy to just be in awe of that, because I see the books that are written by authors that I respect. Like I'll read, uh, 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 what is it, the Empire of the Vampire. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the ones I recently started. I read 10 books at a time, so I like to read little pieces of books as I
Yeah.
go. That's one that I recently started, and just like I read a few pages of that, and I was just in awe of the way that the word choice, the prose, the dialogue, the way it was intertwined. So it still happens. It happens to me. And it's easy to fall into that trap of like, oh, this is just amazing. This must have started amazing. This and this must just be natural. It's not natural. You develop those skills. That chapter was probably edited quite a bit to
Yeah.
get it to the perfection that it ended up being. And it's hard to realize that when you're seeing the finished product, because you're seeing, when you hear your favorite band's new song, you're hearing the final version of that song. You're not hearing the version where they're just dicking around in a garage or in a living room with
Yeah.
pots and pans and a couple of ukuleles. So it's hard to see that, but you have to push yourself through that feeling and just go for it. Like, that's the biggest thing. Honestly, everything else is just technical. It's all just technical, like, realizing how not to use the same word 2 sentences in a row, figuring out where to align, sentences in a paragraph, and how to do that. Those are all just technical things that you pick up as you go. So it's hard to have hard and fast rules for that. But the number one thing is just just do it, push through, write something that looks like garbage,
It's
because you can
interesting you
edit it
say
forever.
Empire of the Vampire. I
There you
actually just
go.
started that today myself,
There you go. Yeah.
and
So
I'm not far along, but so far it's
it's
definitely different than
sick.
anything I've read,
It's
and yeah,
sick.
it's
And
good.
I'm not a humongous fan of his previous series.
But the
Um,
Nevernight
yeah,
series, yeah,
and not by not humongous, I mean I'm not a fan really at all of that series in
yeah,
particular. I mean, the writing is fine. I mean, it's not like, I just don't like. I'm not a fan of that type of story or whatever, and the way it's presented. But this book is just wow. Like, it's
yeah.
got me. It's got me immediately. So, um, you know, but anyway, yeah, before I get off on that tangent, yeah, that's the number one thing. And for me, that was the hardest part as well, was just pushing myself to do it, because you constantly second guess yourself as a creative whenever you're working on anything
Yeah.
that you're doing. Is you're like, you'll read it one day, you'll read it and be like, I wrote this amazing scene. This is
Yeah.
amazing. And then you'll wake up the next day and reread it. You'll be like, this scene is garbage. I wrote garbage. I
Yeah.
wrote hot garbage, and nobody will ever love this, and this is awful, and I should just throw this away and give up and walk into the sea.
Yeah.
And then the next day you'll be like, okay, well, it's not perfect, but I can tweak a couple of things, and then it will be. So it's a lot of just getting over that mental mindset.
All right. So, who would you say, if you could only pick one, would be your favorite
Oh, geez.
author?
Favorite author? My
Yeah,
God. Okay.
because I know you've read some good stuff. So,
um, Man, that is really tough. I don't know if I could just pick one. I mean, if I had to pick one,
you can do two.
I
I'll give you
okay,
two if it
I would
helps.
probably say, if I had to do two, I would pick Robin Hobb and Joe Abercrombie.
Okay.
With uh, George R. R. Martin as a hot close third.
Hmm.
As much as I'm devastated every day that goes by that we don't have the next book in that series.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the first three game, like, I'm old enough that I started that series when only the first three books were out. So
Okay.
I had the lovely experience of waiting a bajillion years for the fourth book, and then waiting 2 bajillion years for the fifth book. But those books really affected me. The
Yeah.
combination of the prose, the world building, the epic nature of it, uh, the multi POV format, like the way it was done, um, the scene jumping, that alone is one of the things that probably impacted my writing in a visceral way the most. Is that prior to that, I was always trying to show every moment of a journey. Like, so I had to show them on the characters on the road, then I had to show them getting to the first inn, and then I'd show them on the road getting to the next thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned from Game of Thrones was how to just jump to a scene. Be like, you know what? If nothing happens on the journey, fuck it, just jump to when they get there, and then just pick up in the middle. So I do a lot of my chapters where they start in medias res, um, to get, like, a character will get caught doing something in at the end of one chapter and be like, oh crap, and then the next chapter will be them getting an earful for it or already getting sentenced for the crime. I'll just jump.
Yeah.
uh, that's one of the things I got from those books as well. But that writing, I really, really liked that as well. But
Yeah.
probably my two favorites are Hobb and Abercrombie, though.
Let's say I've read book ones of both. So I've read Assassin's Apprentice, and the prose to me were beautiful. Like I really like that book is good. And then A Blade Itself, I've read it, and it's fantastic too. Like
Yeah.
I was the thing that got me is everyone was like, "Oh, another grimdark, super dark."
Mhm.
And I read that book and I was like, "This really ain't that dark." Now,
Yeah,
maybe
well,
it gets that way.
yeah, and that's the main bone I have
Yeah.
to pick with grimdark. Is grimdark,
Yeah.
the definition of grimdark is whatever the fuck you say it is, whoever's
Yeah.
doing the talking, because it means a different thing for every person. Because yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really consider it to be particularly grimdark, but a lot of people, I think it was called grimdark because of the tone, like the
Yeah.
bleak kind of overall tone of everything. But the events that happen in it, and the action and the violence isn't all that
Yeah.
horrific, which a lot of people think that a lot of people's opinion of grimdark is that it's just horrific shit happening,
Yeah. No.
and that's what makes grimdark. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, oh, there has to be like massacres, and there has to be sexual violence and brutal violence on every page and stuff like that. And but a lot of other people think grimdark is just the tone,
Yeah.
in Abercrombie's case. So who knows? But yeah, but both of those authors, and probably the reason that they're my two favorites is that they also, um, I guess, like, taught or is the wrong word, but like they help me accept that I can take time to explore characters, and that's being character driven is not a slur. Like, it's not
Yeah.
an insult, to explore characters. Obviously, you want to have you want to present it in the best possible way, but like, the blade itself, nothing substantial happens in that book at all.
Yeah.
It's
No.
just some characters going somewhere
Yeah.
and then meeting each
Yeah.
other, and then they do a couple of things, and then
Yeah.
nothing happens.
Yeah.
And it's just amazingly written,
Yeah.
and it's an amazing look at those characters. And so, obviously the other books, to greater or lesser degree, have more or less plot and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you can do that. You can sit there,
Yeah.
if you do it the right way. You can take time with characters. Not every book has to be a thriller.
Yeah.
Not every book has to be 30-page chapters or whatnot either. But there's room for books like that. You don't have to make your chapters 5 pages or less, for an epic fantasy book, because that's
Yeah.
not really what that genre demands. And so, but yeah, but it's okay to to explore. I love to explore characters. Like, I will slow down books. Like, I will put a pause on things that are happening to have characters react to all the insane stuff that happened in the previous chapter. And like, there are some scenes where it's just characters just literally just having a dialogue, reacting to what happened, and trying to process mentally and emotionally what happened. you don't want to overdo it, but there is room for it, and you shouldn't be afraid of it when you're doing a
Mm.
book. Because thrillers are great, but not everything has to be that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I think to me, like Abercrombie on with the blade itself is proof that you can literally do nothing in a book, but your characters are so dang interesting
right?
that you can't help but read about it. It's
Yeah,
like I immersive read that book, and the audiobook version of it is so good just by
it's
like Glockta itself is
it's
just
it's it's the
incredible.
goat of audiobooks. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is amazing. Like I just listen and then and you're I mean you just go through and you're like, huh, there really ain't that much going on here, but I don't even care. Like
Right?
I just want to hear these dudes talk, you
Yeah,
know. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And obviously you try to hit a balance,
Yeah.
throughout a book, but if every chapter is pulse pounding, uh, nonstop, uh, then it numbs the reader to what's going on as well. So not everything can be like there's something to be said for having rising and falling action and intensity in a book, because it keeps you on your toes. One of my favorite things to do is to quiet things down in a chapter and then lull you into a false sense of security and then just do something
Yeah.
insane in the last 2 pages.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think there's a thing to be said for that. You can find a good medium, and everybody and if you want to write your book in a thriller format, go for it. If that's what serves your story, absolutely do it. But a lot of authors get into a trap where they feel like they have to do it a certain way, or they
Yeah.
won't get attention or get readers, or get that. Like they feel like they get stuck in this thing uh, where they start to try to write in ways that aren't themselves. They try to it's one thing to try new territory or try to expand your horizons as an author, but but not if it's at the expense of your creative joy. Like if
Yeah.
you're trapping yourself into writing a certain way that you don't enjoy, uh, then I feel like that's going to make writing just feel really dull and awful for you.
Yeah.
So
All right, let's see. Boyce has wrote a few things here. Kingdoms of Death is peak. Okay.
yeah,
So
I'm
that's
really
next.
excited to
Yes.
to get into that series because
Now I
again,
did I didn't like Empire or Empire of Silence. It was okay for me, but the next two books are fantastic.
yeah,
So I'm curious if
a lot of people
because
say the same about Red Rising as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
you know,
love the first
I'm
three.
I
Books
well,
two and
here's
three are
my thing. I
incredible.
can't wait until people say that about We Break Immortals.
Yeah,
They're like, We Break Immortals was pretty good, but
yeah.
the next one,
But the next one, that's where it goes. That's right.
that's my
That's
hope.
right.
My fingers are crossed that I'm going to hit that
Yeah, yeah,
moment. But yeah, I'm very excited. I have, like I said, I bought the whole series based on
yeah.
Boy's
Uh,
recommendation, and I
it's
can't
good
wait
so
to
far.
jump into that as well. Because
Yeah,
again, I love space opera, epic, sci-fi stuff as long as I'm not the one writing it. Because
yeah, yeah. And he put love that series. I'm assuming he's talking about Empire of the Vampire. He is one of the main reasons why I'm reading this series is because he gave it such high praise. So I'm gonna hopefully read all three of them this year so I can
yeah,
get that series
yeah, I
done.
think I
It's
think he might have been the reason I got I know I may have I know I bought the other two just on Esme's uh, review of the non-spoiler review of the third book,
mhm,
but I might have gotten the first one based on Boyd's review. I can't remember because I know I
yeah,
bought the first one a while ago and hadn't read any of it, and then I bought the second two both at once, still not having read the first one,
yeah.
just based on all of their recommendations.
I really like the way he does his reviews, especially like at the end of the month where he how he grades them out, and then if it's a TBR
Oh, I'm
breaker and all that
obsessed with
stuff.
his
It's
format
so
for
good,
reviews.
ain't
I
it?
am obsessed with it. Yeah, it's
I don't
fantastic.
ever write anything on it, but I'm always taking notes. It's like, okay, this book's good. This book's good. Okay. I mean, he's got a really good criteria in it too, and
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
I mean,
Mm,
I love it because it brings me back. It makes me nostalgic for like my D&D character
yeah.
uh, cards where they have stats like
Yeah.
dexterity, strength. Like
Hmm.
I love that concept, and that's really the way you should rate a book too. To be
Yeah.
perfectly honest, because not every book is the same way. Or is done the same way with the same thing. Like some books have exceptional prose, but the story is just meh. So
Yeah.
I feel like you should break it down into those things to accurately measure it, what you thought of it, because that gives the reader the best idea of it. Like some readers are like, well, if the prose is good, I don't care if the story is meh. Like I want to
Yeah.
read beautiful words about characters or whatever, you know. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's an awesome way to do it.
All right, let's wrap this up. I got three more questions,
Okay, I'm
and
ready.
they're mainly for me. All
Okay.
right. So, what are you reading
Oh,
besides Empire the Vampire?
oh, what am I reading right now besides Empire the Vampire? Let's see. Oh, I am working on Bill Adams' book, the God's Blood tragedy.
I have
Um,
it. I'm starting it
I
next
had
month.
started that
Yeah.
late last year and had to put a huge pause on it because I was finishing editing the Heroes We Never Were, and then
Mm.
I was going to start this year, but then illness and proofreading got in the way of that. But that one also I am in the midst of. Um, the I technically started the third Malazan book a while ago,
Okay.
but made it about two chapters in, and it hadn't caught me yet.
Yeah.
And that was when I actually started reading Empire of the Vampire, and that one kind
Okay.
of took over my brain a little bit. So I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more in there. Um, let's see, what else am I currently reading? That might be it for books I've actually started. I
Okay.
do have like I my TBR is so big. I have like a soon to be section of my TBR and then the
Yeah.
rest of my TBR. So I have about 40 books in my soon to be TBR that I technically haven't started yet, but that I want to roll
Okay. I guess technically, if we went TBR, you can't see it, but this whole shelf behind me,
with.
and then there's a shelf over there, the other side that way. They're all full. So
Yeah,
I've probably got about 150 books that I haven't read. Like this shelf is everything that I have read.
yeah. I'm
Oh,
well into the hundreds.
yeah.
If you want my total TBR and growing because I keep getting recs
Yeah.
of amazing authors. And like Bill, I bought both of his books, even though I hadn't started the first one yet, but I'm still
Yeah.
going for it. Um, yeah, there's just so many fantastic books that are coming out. So if I like the idea of your book, I just buy it, even if I
Mhm.
know I won't be able to read it until next year or
Yeah.
whatever. Because that's just the way I am. I'm constantly having to like go through my Kindle and like pick books, older books to delete off of there because I just don't have the hard drive space on my or the
Holy
flash drive space
cow.
on my Kindle. Like it's full. It's just
Yeah.
full of stuff.
Yeah.
I go kind of hog wild at times, but
Yeah. All right. So, what would you say is your favorite book of all time?
of all time, I don't know if I could answer that question. That's a tough one. That's a
Okay.
really tough one.
Do you have a series that you think is your favorite series ever?
I probably would say, technically they're the Assassins trilogy and
Hmm.
the uh, the Tawny Man trilogy, like all the Farseer books from Abinab. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite series all the way through,
Okay.
and that's probably because I haven't finished or even read most of a lot of the other big series that are out there. So I don't know if anything will eclipse that. Technically, I've read the first three. I've read the first Joe Abercrombie trilogy and the three standalone
Oh, yeah.
books. But I haven't read his final trilogy yet, even though I own all three of those books already. I haven't read those three yet, but I've been told they're the best ones. So I'm like
Okay.
savoring the moment where I'll get to start reading them as well. But so I don't know if they count as a separate series. They're kind of linked,
Yeah.
so I feel like
Yeah.
they might be kind of cohesive. That one might take the cake by the end. We'll see. But for
Okay.
now, it's probably Robin Hobb.
Okay. All right. Last question. What book would you recommend me to read?
Oh, recommend to read.
Yep.
Let me see.
Whispers of the Storm. Well,
would
it just. I have that book,
I would recommend. Oh, let's make
but
them
I'm not
touch.
ready.
Make them touch.
Oh yeah.
There
Oh,
we go. Create the singularity. I would
oh
recommend
yeah.
this one. This one is fantastic.
Okay.
This one, I love, and after all the shit I said about being able to write long chapters and feeling comfortable, this book
Hmm.
has, with the exception of one, has pretty short, for me, extremely short chapters, and
Yeah.
I still loved it from beginning to end.
Okay.
So that would probably be the one that I would currently say I would recommend, just because of that, because
Okay.
it goes against my own things that I usually like, because I'm usually
Yeah.
a long chapter enjoyer, um, and a more moderated pace. But that book is fantastic, even though it doesn't hold true to that.
I finished this in January, I
Mhm.
think, and it was
Oh
so
yeah, that
good.
one's good too. I just put up
Yeah.
a review of that last month. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
love that one. And again, that one is not so I usually it's weird because I usually don't like uh uh stories of that type, like the but that one really got me.
yeah.
That was
Yeah, it's
really
really good.
enjoyable. So
ZB's really good. I'll say that. He is really good. All right. Well, that is all that I have. Do you have anything you want to end with? Say anything or whatnot?
no, I'm real excited about the next upcoming books that I plan on releasing. So hopefully I'll have news again on that real soon. It's been a heck of a saga trying to get these books ready to go, and I just can't wait to get them out so that I can, kind of open the floodgates going forward.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on the channel. I appreciate it. And
You got it,
thanks
man.
everybody for showing up in the chat. But I guess other than that, we
Tons
will
of fun.
call it
Yeah,
an
10 out
evening.
of 10 would do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. Thanks everybody for
Well, I
coming in.
appreciate it. All right. Y'all have a good evening